Thank you so much, Sal. It's such a pleasure to be giving this presentation. My passion in life is connecting people with what it is they are passionate about and empowering them to take that passion and make a difference in their community wherever they are, whoever they are. People have done this for me in my life, and it's been the greatest gift that I've ever received to realize that whatever it is that I'm interested in, whatever it is that I think maybe I can do it. And so I just want to live my life giving that gift to other people. So during this time of COVID-19, it's been so scary for everybody. I mean, it's a time of insecurity in so many different ways. It's been a time of people's lives changing. And so as far as volunteering goes, I'm a professional community organizer, and I have seen so many changes going on as far as how people can volunteer, how they can't even volunteer anymore, just like they can't go to their normal jobs. And so for me, I've tried to make it a point to stay on the up and up to see, well, how can people still volunteer? Because I found in times when I'm feeling anxious or depressed, it's so helpful to reach outside of your own bubble, outside of your own circle, and say, well, how can I help others? Because when I help others, I feel so much better. I feel like I'm not alone. I feel like I'm doing good in the world, and I rest easier. My mind feels better, and so again, I've compiled this presentation to let everybody know, whether you're 4 or 40 or 94, whatever your financial situation is, wherever in the country or the world you are, you can make a difference in your local community, your national community, or your global community. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this presentation. This is a new kind of technology for me, so do bear with me. Okay, here we go. All right, can everyone see that presentation?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you, Krista. So here we are, my presentation is called All Together Now. And again, it's about how to give just a little bit and make a big difference. Now, one of the biggest misconceptions about volunteering is that you have to give a ton of time. You have to change your whole schedule in order to have some kind of impact in the world. And that's just not true. Because if you think about if everybody you knew in your life just took an hour a week or even an hour a month and did a tiny little something, don't you think the whole world would change? So for me, that's what I want to let people know is never sell yourself short. Never stop yourself because you think the thing that you're going to do is too little. Because if everybody just did a little something, then it would make a huge difference. So we're going to examine with that in mind all of these things that can be done. All right, so what can one person do? So every single person can make an impact. Oh, I'm just going to move this. So again, in whatever way you define community, and we're going to look at all different ways to define community for the impact, because some people want to make an impact on their very local community. They want to see their neighbors' lives being helped, and they want to build those connections in that network. And that's a really beautiful, beautiful thing to do. Some people want to feel like their whole country is getting better, and they look for volunteer opportunities that make their whole country better. And then some people, they love that global outreach. They love to feel like they have an interaction with people on the other side of the world. And that's really what interests them. So whatever kind of volunteerism interests you, go for it. Don't hesitate. Don't question why you're interested in that thing. Just do it, because it takes all different people doing different things. Again, remember, something is always better than nothing. Don't say, well, it's not enough, so I'm not going to do it. That's never good. Just get that out of your mind right away. If you're engaged in something that you love doing, you're going to get so much back out of it. I have, like Krista, who's on this call today, has become one of my best friends in the world. I don't know what my life would be without her. And I met her through volunteering. I was volunteering doing something that I'm passionate about, and so was she. And so when you're volunteering doing something that you love, you're going to meet people who you already have a ton in common with. And so you're more likely to have beautiful friendships in your life. You're more likely to to grow as a person because you're developing these things that you're already interested in. So you're going to get so much back in your life. You also just never know how much good that seemingly small little bit is going to do. If you give what seems like a little, it might change someone's life. If you give just a little, someone might see you giving, and then they'll try volunteering for the first time, or they'll say, you know what, I'll give it a shot, and then they might fall in love with volunteering and go on to be one of the biggest world changers that the world has ever known. You don't know. You can never measure your impact. So again, you just go for it. And there we go. By doing something, you're empowering others, and you're never alone in volunteering. So just think of your impact plus everyone else's impact. So with all of that in mind, we're going to look at COVID response with volunteering. So this is very current. This is something we're talking about, social distancing with volunteering, and COVID is on everyone's mind. It's something that many people have been affected by, and in so many different ways. I know, let's see, Corinne, who's on the call, was just saying that they've had to kind of shift their jobs. They have a son who's now at home, and so their lifestyle has changed so much. A lot of us who used to go outside of the home both for work and social things can no longer do this, and so we're stuck at home. We're feeling helpless and fearful. Some of us are anxious and depressed, and so what do you do with that? Because of many of these closures, a lot of people are home more. A lot of people might have a little bit more time, and so volunteering, finding ways to volunteer, is a really great way to fill that time in a positive way and keep yourself connected with others while still staying safe. And again, staying safe is so fundamental with everything that I'm about to discuss. If you are immunocompromised, having even sort of semi-contact with other people, sharing items of any kind, it can still be dangerous. So I urge and start everything by saying, find your level of comfort with all of this, and always prioritize yours and your family's safety above any kind of volunteering. With that said, we need each other more than ever. I've been doing a lot of volunteering the past couple of months and found that just like before, anytime I volunteer, I feel so much better. But it's even more so in this age of COVID-19, because we're home, we feel extra disconnected. And so when I get to volunteer and connect with people and hear their stories, I remember I'm not the only one whose work is suffering. I'm not the only one who's feeling unstable and alone. Everyone is. And so when I connect with people and can still meet people through these volunteer opportunities, I don't feel alone anymore. And it's a really, really beautiful thing. So what are the ways that someone can volunteer with COVID response? One of the greatest things that one can do right now is anything involving food security or food insecurity, helping to combat food insecurity. My husband guffawed at my pun earlier today. I was showing him this presentation, said everyone can helps. So that is to say, whoever you are, whether, you can just throw one extra can in your shopping cart when you're shopping, or you can, make a $1 donation to a local food bank. That one can of food, again, thinking back to that idea of what can we do? What impact can one person have? You are one person, but one person can have such a greater reach. And so here's some ways why. Why is it important? First, the requests at food banks, I've been reading up on the statistics from Island Harvest, Long Island Cares, we're based here on Long Island. It's the requests have doubled. And it's such a short time, and not only have their requests doubled, but it's harder to do food drives, and it's harder to get food out to people. They're succeeding to get food out to people, but they need the food. So I've been following up on ways, how can they get food? They're doing a lot of these virtual food drives, which is lovely. But as Long Island is opening back up, today is the first day of phase 1 of Long Island opening back up. They're finding that in-person contactless food drives are a really effective way to collect food for your neighbors. And it's kind of fun. It's a fun challenge to get people together. I know a group that I've been running, I decided to host a food drive on my front porch, and we decided to try to collect 2,020 items of food, which is a crazy number, but I figured 2020 has been such a challenge that we were going to challenge it right back. And we're already up to over 400 items of food and going with a lot of momentum. And the way that we're doing this is I'm reaching far beyond myself. I'm using social media. I'm reaching out to scout troops, religious groups, other already established groups of people, because I have those contacts and I have those networks. It's not to say that I have super strong contacts, but you have to remember that if you want to help, then other people want to help too. And it goes back to that empowering others. They're often just waiting and looking for a way to help. And you can be that link. You can be the person who flips that switch for someone else and says, oh, I didn't know there was that need, but absolutely, I'll help run a food drive for your food drive in my local religious group or in my scout troop. And there, instead of you just being a person who had, you said, well, I can donate 5 items of food. Now, by making a connection, you've been able to donate 500 pieces of food just by doing some networking. So the power of connection, of talking, the joy that you get when you talk to other people and they start to tell stories about, oh gosh, I went and had this conversation with this other person, or, we did this food drive last year, but it wasn't so successful and everybody wants to give. It starts to fill you with this love and sense of community. And COVID-19, as terrible as it is, you realize that the community around you is so strong that you're going to make it through. That sense of hopelessness starts to fade away. So we're going to go, I can show you a video of one of my best friends from high school brought her daughter by. Her daughter had went to the grocery store and picked out a few things and brought something by. So hopefully you could hear this. Can you hear that?
No.
Oh.
Now I do.
This is my friend Natalie here. And Natalie, best friend today for the food drive, along with so many of our other generous members. Natalie, who is this food going to? It's going to people who don't have any food. And so we're so grateful for your donations. The food drive will continue.
So here we go. So Natalie came and dropped off some food, and then she wanted to make a video. She said, let's make a video together to tell more people. And so it was just a very sweet moment for me to see that the next generation too is already being educated about these issues and educated in a way that's not sad and making them feel bad, but is empowering, and to say, hey, you can do something about this. Yeah, your neighbors are hungry, but look, you can do something. And so it was a really lovely time. To think about next, outside of food and other food related issues, for people who have directly been impacted by the virus, there's so many ways that people can be impacted by the virus, and so it's almost endless the ways that one can reach out and help. But here's just a few ways. So something that I've been up to since mid-March was creating a group that, and here's an example, I thought that was going to be a really small group and maybe help a couple of people connect with information. It's a group called Long Island Open Source Medical Supplies. I was inspired to create it because when COVID-19 started to really hit the United States, it was breaking my heart that I saw how difficult it was for medical professionals and other essential workers to get the personal protective equipment that they needed. And I couldn't imagine, I have friends and family who are in this profession. They were calling me and saying, I'm so scared to go to work every day. I don't have the proper, I'm wearing one N95 mask for 1 week and it doesn't feel safe, and I don't feel good going to work. And so I said, well, what can I do? And that's often the question that, that's the thing you should be doing, is when you ask yourself, well, what can I do? And so I said, well, let me see what other people are doing. And I saw a group, it was an international group called the Open Source COVID-19 Medical Supply, and they were connecting people with information about how to make different pieces of PPE. So, beyond even masks, they had different, open source refers to the file sharing. Different patterns, or referring to 3D printing the files, things like that. Not charging one another for this information in order to help get it out into the public and have people make things for one another. And so I saw this, and they were discussing different issues, like, well, there's a lot of people who are making these things, but they don't have files that are, or patterns that are really the best that are out there. So it's helpful to get people that information. Or people have things to donate, but they don't know where to donate them, and they're bringing them to hospitals that don't want that item, or they're bringing them to hospitals that already have what they need. So I said, well, my skill set as a community organizer, I mean, I don't sew, I don't have a 3D printer, but I can try to help connect people with this information. And again, I thought maybe I would connect with like 50 people, maybe 100. The group is up to 2,000 people now, and we've donated over 30,000 pieces of PPE and comfort care items. And it's just been an incredible adventure over the past few weeks of meeting hundreds and hundreds of new community members, people who are volunteering for the first time, people who volunteer to just drive the items around, people who have donated fabric, donated like the little lotions from hotels that they took and probably would have ended up throwing out. Donated all these sorts of things. And then people who learned to sew for the first time, they were empowered in turn because they saw this happening, and they said, well, I have my mother's old sewing machine. I've never learned how to use it, but how hard can it be? And they were so moved by what was happening that they decided to step outside of their comfort zone and try something new. And so I've been doing this probably like between 14 and 16 hours a day. It's starting to slow down finally because the supply chain is opening up, but it's been my absolute pleasure to help serve the community in this way. And it's a great example of how I identified what my skills are and said, well, I'm just going to put this out there and see what it does. And it took off. And so if you just ask yourself, well, what am I good at? And then go from there. What am I good at and what do I care about? And go from there. It can really go far. So, for anyone, I've just been trying to reach out to anyone and say, there's a place for you in a group like this, whether you can sew, if you have a 3D printer. I brought some show and tell here. If I can go back to the big screen for a second. Sal, how do I do that? If I do this,
Yep.
my big screen again?
Yes.
Sweet. So I just wanted to show you some of the items that the community members have made here. So this is a 3D printed face shield, which is pretty cool. So the 3D printed part is this here, the red part, and then this is a like a slide from a projector. And so face shields, are really helpful in the medical field to keep any kind of potential COVID, particles out of doctors and nurses' eyes. And so these were so rare, especially in the beginning. And people with 3D printers, which they were using recreationally, they were able to make these, and still are making them. And so that's just a really amazing item. And then now a lot of people are making these ear savers. You can see the Boy Scout Troop 197 has decided to make
I
these.
didn't see anything on the screen, sorry.
Oh, it's okay.
I see you. Oh,
Can
I only have the title page. It says waiting to view Rebecca Kassay's screen. So sorry, I don't see anything but
Oh,
do.
I'm sorry. Sal, can you see me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
So
I'm sorry, Corinne.
you can't see. You can probably change your view where you click on view active cameras or
You,
view.
oh, where am I going to find it? Under the settings?
This depends on which device you're on.
I'm on an iPad. Is that why I can't see anything?
On the iPad, no, so it actually should just come right up.
That's a negative. Sorry.
It's okay. Were you able to see, are you able to see the presentation as I go?
I was up until you were, I think you were
Okay,
starting to
no
share
worries.
something.
The show and tell is very short, so don't worry about that. So for those who can see, we have these ear savers here. It just holds the elastic off of the off of folks' ears because you know you had those moments where they were getting blisters on their ears. So we had those 3D printed, and then the crocheters and the knitters got in on the game and started making them crocheted and knit. And now buttons became a big shortage once this started. So the 3D printer makers began 3D printing buttons to give to the people who are crocheting and knitting. And I just love that because you think about people who crochet and knit probably typically wouldn't be hanging out with people who are 3D printing just in like a normal sense. These are people who wouldn't have met in any other way, but now they're communicating, they're talking about these objects, they're forming these friendships, and it's just a really to think about that illustration of how people who wouldn't not have met before are getting to know one another and form a stronger community, not just by making objects, but also by getting to know one another. And say, they talk about what they're doing, but then next they say, well, what do you do when you're not doing this? And someone on my front porch who was dropping something off earlier today was just saying, she met somebody who ended up getting her son a job at the local grocery store through doing this. So it's really forming those connections. You never know where they're going to lead, I just love those success stories of folks who are volunteering out there. Okay, so back to the presentation. Corinne, can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Perfect. Okay, that's the most important thing. So all right, so let's see if I can get back to this here. All right. We did that, we did that, we did that, we did that. Okay, so great. So for younger people in the group in Long Island Open Source, we've had scout troops and younger people cutting out the patterns for people to sew. We've also had people, young people doing the next thing, writing cards or drawing pictures for to put into the packages that we send to staff or to give to patients at the hospitals, nursing homes, even funeral homes, because it seems, again, this is something that seems like it's not that important, like not that big of a deal. But if you're, if it must be a difficult thing to talk to a child about COVID-19, because children can understand, are capable of understanding things, but to take something like a pandemic and all of the stresses that are happening in the adult life right now and tell a child about it has to be very stressful. And so to try to empower a child at the same time and say, people are sad right now, but here's what you can do to help them. It really is something that adults are not as capable of, to send that love, to be vulnerable in that way, to draw something and give it to someone and say, I see you and I appreciate you, and here's a little gift in this way. Again, it seems like maybe it doesn't mean much, but we've had young people anywhere from 2 years old to 12 years old, make drawings and include these, and we get pictures of nurses with tears in their eyes holding these up and being so grateful to have received them. So that's a great thing for young people to do. And then just checking in on family, friends, and neighbors as well to see how they're doing. You might find a neighbor who's elderly who needs grocery store runs or pharmacy runs, whatever it is. And so that's a really great thing to do to volunteer. Volunteering does not mean it's official with a group. Volunteering just means it's something that you're doing out of the goodness of your heart and you're not getting paid for it. And so, think outside the box as far as that's concerned. Now, sometimes volunteering is just an escape from your normal life, and normal life right now for everyone is COVID-19. So maybe you and your family want to volunteer doing something that doesn't have anything to do with COVID-19. And I think that's a really beautiful thing too, to say, hey, you know what? I think I'm going to take a break from it. I see Krista can't see the presentation anymore. Is anyone else having an issue?
No, I see it fine. It says put COVID aside for a little while.
Yeah, Sal? Thank you, Corinne.
I can see it. Yeah. Which device are you on, Krista?
Don't worry, keep going. It's okay. It's okay. I'm listening.
Okay. I'm sorry about that.
No, it's okay. Oh, let's go back to that. So putting COVID-19 aside for a little while, volunteering, it can be this escape. It can become or be part of a hobby or complement a passion. So we're going to go ahead and look at some non-COVID-19 related ways to volunteer while social distancing. So let's look at citizen science. Citizen science is a really cool way for people who are not scientifically trained necessarily. Maybe you do have a science background, and that's great too, but you don't need to. But they're programs that are set up for scientists of all ages to engage, and there's plenty of instructions, and so families, young people with the guidance of someone of an adult, or young people at heart, can go ahead and engage with nature, to go ahead and get out into nature in a way that helps them experience it in a deeper way, but then also use that experience to send data back to big databases that help to form different laws, or just tell scientists, oh, there's certain things happening here that were never happening there before. And so it's a great way to sort of unwind, relax, learn. It's a great learning tool, but then also know that you're doing something, you're contributing to something. So we're actually going to pop over to a website. Can everyone see the website right now?
Yep.
Perfect. So this is the Xerces Society's Bumblebee Watch. And this is a really, really cool app. So you can download the app or for either Android or iPhone, or you can go ahead and submit things online. So the Bumblebee Watch is a neat program. It's just in North America. And you have, oh, sorry, pardon me for one moment. I have folks hanging out outside, and you're going to hear some background noise. So I run a bed and breakfast also on top of all this other volunteering. Just give me one moment. Apologies. Okay, so we have the Bumblebee Watch. So it's in North America, and it is something that where you can go into whatever natural space you have, whether it's your backyard, a local park, even the beach side has plants that attracts bumblebees, and you're looking for bumblebees that are on plants, any kind of plant. And all you have to do is take, probably the easiest thing to use is some kind of smartphone, and take a picture of the bumblebee, close up enough where you can see the plant that it's on and the bumblebee that it is, and you take a photo. And then whether you do it in that moment or later, you submit the photo using the app or the website, and it has a really cool way to go through a series of questions that helps you identify what kind of bumblebee it is, because there's so many different kinds of bees. And then so you learn about the bees, but also by submitting this data, you get to contribute the data. And because there's so many people doing this, so many people just like you, the scientists who are watching out for the patterns of bumblebees, which we've heard in the news are struggling to do well, they're getting to watch these different patterns and say, oh wow, they're showing up earlier here, or it looks like they're actually using this plant more. We should encourage people to use that plant more often. So it's a really great way, if you have kids. I know Corinne said she has a son. It's a neat way to kind of make a game out of going outside, looking for these. The bumblebees do not sting. The wasps are another story, but bumblebees, they're the fluffy teddy bears of bees. And so you can look for them and then go ahead and use this app or website to record, which is really fun. Another way to have a closer look at nature is using the Nature's Notebook app. It's looking at phenology, which is a really, I had to take some time to learn about phenology. In short, phenology is looking at when changes are happening in different objects in nature. So think about in the springtime, you're really excited to see a certain plant bloom. Maybe it's daffodils or a flowering tree in your yard. And so you know the feeling of waiting for it. And every day you walk outside, like, is it today? Is it today? And then finally you go outside, you're like, oh, today it bloomed. You already know how to do this app. Like you're already got half of the work done. The only thing you have to do is download it and be able to put that information in. So what this app is doing is collecting information about when plants are blooming, when plants are coming out of the ground. There's animals there too. And why that's so important is that over time, they find that plants, the trends, they're coming out earlier or later, they're blooming earlier and later, and that really affects how the animals do who rely on those plants. And so having that information is so important. And again, without citizen scientists going out there and collecting it, they can't have that much information. And so it's so important for everybody to be going out there, using their smartphones, using the computer to collect this information and getting it submitted. So, and again, it's a way to, I've used this app, and it's a way to look at nature like you never have before, because you start to look really closely. You start to notice, wow, like, that there's these 5 plants in my yard, and I never noticed how the cycles are. And then if you do it for a full year, you say, yeah, it was like 2 weeks later. And you become more in tune with what's going on around you. And if you do have even a tiny little yard, it starts to feel, you realize that that is nature too. You don't have to go to a national park in order to experience nature. So that's a really great one. If you are more into our history, or you are more into, you want to think about disaster relief, but not COVID so much, we're going to look at 2 other online or either online or app-based campaigns that you could be a part of here. Again, these are really good for young people too. They're also good learning tools while really contributing something. So I'm going to pop into that website again. Nope, not that one. There we go. Okay, can everyone see the By the People campaign website here?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So here we are. This is the National Library of Congress of America. And I stumbled upon this and was so excited because I'm a little bit of a history geek. And here, every person has the chance to help contribute to the Library of Congress. So here they have collections of different kinds of documents. And what they're asking for people to do is be the first people to take these documents from their scanned form. So they had them in physical form. Someone scanned them, but it takes a really long time to read the handwriting of these documents and then put in digital form what it says. And so what you as the volunteer get to do is look at all of these really beautiful pieces of history. You know, you can see there's different kinds of posters and flyers and postcards and legal documents, and then you get to see what has been done with them if they're finished, or you get to see, for example, here, a volunteer has taken this postcard and written down what was on the front of this postcard here. So this is a simple one, but really beautiful to look at. And then they have letters, correspondence, things that are really exciting, in my opinion, to read and look at, and gives it so much more depth to see the handwriting that goes into, that is a lost art, really. You know, you hear a lot of people talking about how young people don't learn about script anymore. This is a great way for them. It's quite a crash course to learn about script here. So, you know, the volunteers would read through these and kind of decode these letters. And then another way to volunteer is seeing what someone else has decoded and making sure that it is correct, and going ahead and certifying that. So
That
that's a
actually
really
looks like fun for me. I'm actually a pharmacist, so reading bad handwriting is what I do.
So did you say it looks like fun or does not look like fun?
No, it looks like fun. Back when before we have moved over to e-prescription, and that the
Yeah,
point of e-prescription is not to make any mistakes, duplications, and on the doctor's
sure.
behalf. But I really enjoy trying to decipher what the doctor wrote. It was
There
fun.
you go. That's amazing. So this would be an excellent opportunity for you. And I think it's so exciting because if nobody has opened the file yet, and you'll see like this one is done, but then there's all these different campaigns that you'll get to look at, and you could choose which one is the most interesting to you. If it's suffragettes, or there's letters to Lincoln, there's Spanish language ones. There's all of these different categories, Civil War. So if you are the first person to open that document, aside from the person who scanned it, who was probably just not even looking at things and scanning, it's like you're the first person to really read that in like over 100 years. And so it's a very intimate relationship with the U.S. history. And if you have that skill of reading really bad, not bad handwriting, but
It's bad.
legible handwriting, yes, it's what a great contribution to historians and the ways that they can use that to help inform the future. So I'm very glad you're on this call and have learned about that. So that's the By the People campaign by the Library of Congress. The other thing, this is really fun for, I always think of young people who like to play things like World of Warcraft and like mapping sort of computer games. So this is the task manager for a mapping program. And I love this so much because what this is doing is taking maps where I didn't even know that there were still areas in the world, and this was my ignorance showing, where there were not, like, you couldn't, they hadn't made street maps of them. So like we're so spoiled really here in the US, where if you want to get somewhere and you punch it into Google and you know how to get there, you know where the roads are. But in other areas of the world, disaster relief is made all the more difficult, not because places are just remote, but because they don't even know how to get there. They don't know how many people live there. They don't know where the buildings are to look for people. And so with OpenStreetMap, what individuals can do, anyone with a computer, they do sort of like you see here at the top, is you take different maps and you draw where the buildings are, you draw where the roads are, and finish little sections of unmapped territory. And in doing so, you get to visit these areas of the world that maybe you'll never get to go in person. but are really neat places that you see and you say, wow, this is how other, like this is so different from the way I live, and it makes you curious. And then you're collaborating really with people who live there, because then people who have boots on the ground there, wherever it is that you've mapped, take your maps and they say, okay, yes, you've mapped out all of these buildings here, and that there, that's our medical center, and this is, this is a fishery, and this here, that's a church. And so they'll be able to take the maps and identify the buildings and put road names in where you've made roads. And so it's a collaboration between whoever, between you on this side of the world and someone else on the other side of the world, to create these maps for people who are, who might need them for disaster relief, or just for use for everyday life for folks living there, to help get deliveries and help develop in the way that the people living there might want to develop. So it's really, it's a unique way for, again, young people that you just watch about 20 minutes worth of videos to train, and then they're ready to go for the Missing Maps OpenStreetMap program. And you could have like, they have it set up where they teach you young people how to have like a group doing it, where you can challenge other people to say, how much you've done, and conquer a whole area together. I think they've set it up very, very well. So that's another great way to volunteer from home, but feel like you're worlds away at the same time. So those are just some ideas. You might have others, but whatever you do, please enjoy it. Just like Corinne was saying, she said, that sounds like fun to me. But if Corinne looked at the mapping and said, that doesn't sound like so much fun, don't do it. Don't do anything that doesn't seem like fun to you. And if you start to try something and you give it a shot and you say, that wasn't really for me, try something else, because it doesn't mean that volunteering isn't for you. It just means that that type of volunteering is not for you. So there's something out there for everybody. There's something that's going to click with you and make your life so much better and so much richer. You just have to find that thing that really connects with you. So just, keep trying, find your thing that you love doing. People in your life might be like, I don't get it. They don't have to get it. If you love it, do it. You're going to meet really great people. Like my friend Krista on the call here, you're just going to meet the best people in your life because of volunteering. And if you don't, I'll give you $1. I don't know what to say. And just remember, it's all of these tiny efforts, seemingly tiny. It's never a tiny effort, but when you feel like, but Rebecca, what is that really doing? Like, what am I really doing by giving 2 cans of soup to a soup kitchen? Or, what am I really doing by translating a document? It's all of us taking a little bit of time, and all the sum of that creating a huge difference in the world, and a difference in us, because when we volunteer, we are happier people, and then our families are happier, our friends are happier, and the world is just a better place. So that's my presentation today. If you want to keep in touch and keep hearing fresh ways to hear about community service, I try to keep up with ways to have community service that responds to current events. You could follow Be the Change with Rebecca on Facebook or Instagram. You can go to www.bethechangewithrebecca.com. I do have a TV series that's going to be coming out later this year. Like everything else, it's been postponed because of COVID, but we did film 8 episodes last year, and they are in post-production. And it's myself going and volunteering for the first time at 8 different kinds of volunteerism opportunities. And it was just a ton of fun. And the point is to share with others, that sense of not knowing what you're doing on the first day, but just the embrace shared by everybody who, the other volunteers, the people who work at the location, and the amazing experience that you always have when you volunteer. So do look forward to that. And I'm happy to say that we have some time for discussion and questions with everybody who's on the call. Thank you so much for being here.
I loved it. It was so informative. I have so many ideas. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank
same
you,
here.
Krista.
I'm trying to like find the websites that you've mentioned on my phone, but they, you know, I'm in denial about my reading glasses. But I'm typing your website, but I can't seem to bring it up. It's www. Beat the change. Oh, I see. I hate autocorrect. That's what it is.
I'm just going to stop the recording now, and then we can keep talking.
Perfect.